Do you ever think, man, I wish I could get magically transported to another world? Stories where that happens to the main character always seem like they'd be awesome to live through. Well, allow me to introduce you to Subaru Natsuki. He had exactly the same opinion until he suddenly found himself transported to another world while walking home from the grocery store. Unfortunately for him, this was not the beginning of the wonderful life he imagined it would be, but rather the end of his life. The first arc of ReZero covers the first 3 episodes of the anime, or first 2 if you're using the director's cut, which I am. And it does a phenomenal job of setting the tone for the rest of the series as it unfolds, including setting up a plethora of dangling plot threads that we'll be returning to in later arcs. Everyone knows that any good beginning introduces the characters, the goals of said characters, and the stakes of achieving those goals. So the first arc of ReZero introduces, I'd say 4 main characters: Subaru, Amelia, Reinhard, and Felt, plus a handful of minor characters who show up later in various capacities. We're given very little information about any of them as people, because who they are as people isn't important to the story yet. The only really important thing in Arc 1 is Subaru saw a cute elf girl and he's going to help the cute elf girl do the thing that she wants, because that's what he should do as the hero. Sorry, did I say we get no information about them as people? The exception that proves the rule here is our focal character, Subaru. He's your classic isekai protagonist, which means he doesn't really go outside and is a massive nerd. Therefore, he's genre savvy enough to know that, as the person who's been brought into a magical otherworld, he's clearly the main character. As he's clearly the main character, we see him try out his presumed immense magical powers, and then get mildly disheartened when absolutely nothing of any importance happens. He also expresses his irritation at the lack of an immediate super cute heroine at his side. After all, cute girls are most of the appeal of portal fantasy for people like Subaru. He's genre savvy, yes, but the specific version of the story he's in isn't playing to the tropes that he expects it to. And the world's refusal to meet his expectations, particularly since it brought him there in the first place, at least from his perspective, is demonstrably unfair in his eyes. It takes him getting mugged before he finally gets to meet the woman who he's been waiting for since he was summoned to Laguna... No, not her. She doesn't care. No, the girl that Subaru is destined to spend the rest of his life dedicated to, with a voice like a silver bell, accuses him of robbing her. However, she also saves him from being attacked in an alley, and is the first person to express any kind of kindness towards him since his arrival in a world that he's entirely unfamiliar with. Thus, from this point on, Subaru will dedicate the rest of his life to helping the girl, who introduces herself as Satella, find the thing that was stolen from her. They end up spending the entire day searching before eventually hearing about a place called the Loot House deep in the slums of the city. Upon arriving there, they find the place in darkness, and Subaru finally learns what kind of story he's in. It's a horror story. He barely has time to recognize that what he's seeing is a carved up body before he and Satella are themselves attacked, and, well, I did say that Subaru would dedicate the rest of his life to helping Satella find her insignia. The rest of this life, that is. Rather, the end of his life. The first arc of ReZero covers the No, I'm just kidding. So, it turns out that Subaru does have a super cool special magical ability after all. Unfortunately for him, its use case sucks. While the viewer probably works it out immediately, it takes Subaru a few attempts before he finally realizes that he can return by death. That is to say, every time Subaru dies, time rewinds to a previous point, including any effects on his person. In the case of this arc, it rewinds to when he was standing in front of the apple merchant. Initially believing that he'd been teleported and healed, Subaru races to the loot house, only to encounter Old Man Rom, who was the guy Subaru saw dead when he was there before. But that doesn't make sense. Subaru attempts to barter for the insignia using his phone, as its camera function is technology unknown in this world, fetching it a high price. After an initial success, he reveals his intention to return the insignia to Satella, at which point everyone present is killed by Elsa, returning Subaru to the merchant's stall once again. He also discovers through his interactions with the elven girl that Satella is in fact the name of the horrifying Witch of Envy, and as he's the only one who retains memories through rewinding time, she has no memory of the fact that she used the name Satella when they first met, and is therefore naturally incensed when he refers to her in such a horrible way. So now Subaru has managed to piss off the only ally he'd made since arriving in Lagunica, all thanks to his terrible power. Why does Subaru have the ability to rewind time? Unclear. Why is his reset point standing in front of the merchant? Unknown. All Subaru knows is that he could have any super cool magical power, and he got stuck with a horrible one that requires him to have to die for it to activate. Getting mugged for the 4th time, while complaining about his rotten luck, Subaru calls out for help once more. This time, the person to come to his aid is not a cute girl, but a cute boy instead. Specifically, he's a knight with blazing red hair named Reinhardt. Thanking him for his help, Subaru resolves to try once more to save everyone he's seen Elsa kill several times, and finally reclaim the elf girl's insignia. He manages to make it to the loot house to begin bartering with Felt and Rom, but they're interrupted when the elf girl herself appears, demanding that her insignia is returned to her. Fortunately, Subaru knows that Elsa is coming to kill them, so the girl and her cat spirit, she has one of those cat spirits by the way, he's called Puck, he's awesome, look at him, he's so adorable, are able to fend off Elsa for at least a bit when she arrives with her own goal of acquiring the insignia, thus allowing Felt to escape and call for aid. And fortunately for everyone, she runs into Reinhardt, the knight who happened to save Subaru earlier in that loop. With a single sword strike, Reinhardt destroys the entire building they were fighting in. Elsa flees, and as a reward for assisting the elf girl, Subaru asks only for her name, Emilia. ReZero's plot hinges on not revealing everything to the reader. The series-long mysteries are set up right from the very beginning of the story. Why was Subaru summoned to Lagunica? Why does Satella love him? How the hell does she even know him? These are all questions surrounding Subaru that he's not even aware of to be able to consider in the first arc. Even arguably crucial questions like what is the insignia aren't revealed until later in the story. For the purposes of this arc, it's a MacGuffin. The only important thing about it is that Emilia wants it. The fact that we spend most of the story firmly lodged in Subaru's mind means that we only get to find out the information that he's interested in learning, at least to start with. For the first arc, he's only interested in finding out what kind of super cool abilities he's acquired from being transported to a magical world, and once that ends up being a bust, what he can learn that will help that cute elf girl get her insignia back. The intention behind the first arc of ReZero is that the mysteries that are dropped will be interesting enough to grab people's attention to continue with the series, in hopes of uncovering exactly what those mysteries unfold, and based on ReZero's popularity, I'd say they probably succeeded. 散りばめて思い今一度きりの願いへ次への僕に託したよ